Hello, my name is Anna Stevens, Communication Manager for Holy Family Hospital of Bethlehem Foundation, here with some technical logistics. If you need any assistance during this event, please call my colleague Kristen at the number listed on the screen. We have muted all guests today to ensure the presenters can be easily heard. Please type any questions you may have in the chat located at the bottom of your screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. A warm welcome to our second American Association virtual Mass and reception to celebrate and honor the mothers and babies of Holy Family Hospital. Thank you, dames, knights, chaplains, family, and friends for joining us today. I am Gail Berardino, and along with our American Association board members, it's an honor for each and every one of us to serve on the board, on the foundation board of Holy Family Hospital. My reflections are one of the statue of Mary in the courtyard of the hospital, which you just saw from the slides that Anna was showing. Her hands extended to welcome all, regardless of their race, color, or ethnic background. May our Virgin Mother guide us and guard us as we share the hospital news with you today. During 2021, the hospital passed some milestones that I will share with you. Our hospital was opened in 1990, over 30 years ago. 90,000 infants have been born in the past 30 plus years. This past May, a record number of deliveries, 396 babies were born in 1 month. And this year, in 2021, 4,700 babies are expected to be born, a record. Quite amazing, and remember, no one is ever turned away. As we know it today, the Holy Family Hospital is a primary work of the Order of Malta and remains a shared initiative of all three associations, the American, the Federal, and the Western. Please join me in welcoming our board members. Thank you for raising your hand as I call your name. Ellen Shafer, Chairman of the Board. Nikki McGowan from Ohio. Molly, and I think Tom is with you, Hines from New York City. Michael Heck and Phyllis from St. Louis. And a big thank you to St. Louis for hosting a beautiful reception for our hospital in June. Mr. Tommy Driscoll from Boston. Mr. John Burnell from Naples, Florida. And also Monsignor Jim Swiader, who is the celebrant for today's Mass, our Malta chaplain from Garden City, New York. Thanks to all of the Federal and Western Association members who have also joined us. Thanks to the generosity of the board members that I just introduced you to, we have a special gift to announce. Our board members will contribute over $35,000 to Holy Family Hospital as a matching gift. If we can raise another $35,000 over the next few days, your gift will be matched 1-to-1. Any donations today can be made in the chat section at the bottom of your screen. We thank each and every one of you for your time, your generosity, and your support. Now, I would like to introduce Ellen Shafer, Chairman of the Board, who will be introducing today's speaker. Ellen?
Thank you, Gail, and hello, everybody. It really is a special privilege to introduce Dr. Michael Espiritu, a dear friend to Holy Family Hospital in Bethlehem and to me. He's an attending neonatologist at New York Presbyterian Hospital and Cornell Medical Center, as well as an assistant professor of clinical pediatrics at Weill Medical College at Cornell University. He received his MD degree from the Weill Medical College and bachelor's degree, cum laude, of course, from Harvard University. Then he completed postgraduate training at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Weill Cornell Medical Center, and is a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. All these credentials are lengthening my introduction, but it's well worth it since he was invested as a Knight of Magistral Grace in 2014, he's traveled regularly to our hospital in Bethlehem, generously sharing his expertise with his pediatric and neonatal colleagues there. He's also served the Order at the Order's International Summer Camp for Disabled Youth, as well as organizing our American Association's volunteer first aid teams in Rome during the Jubilee Year of Mercy. And he is a counselor to the Permanent Observer Mission of the Order of Malta to the United Nations. We're anxious to hear the unflappable and ever-smiling Dr. Espiritu's insights into his past year on the COVID front lines in New York City and his own update on the amazing big and little miracles that take place daily at our Holy Family Hospital in Bethlehem. Go, Michael.
Good evening, and thank you so much, Ellen, for that introduction. And thank you for inviting me back to speak on behalf of the Holy Family Hospital. I'm honored as the hospital holds special significance for me as a member of the Order and also, as Ellen mentioned, a neonatologist. Since 2014, I've had the privilege of going to Bethlehem as one of a number of doctors from abroad who volunteer their time teaching as visiting professors. I traveled there most recently right before the pandemic in January of 2020. Each visit has drawn me closer to the vocation and spirituality of our Order. Last year, to illustrate for you the work of the Holy Family, I shared the story of one of the women our hospital has helped, Hadil, and her baby Jude, one of the smallest newborns to be saved at the Holy Family. Hadil had arrived at the doors of the Holy Family only 24 weeks pregnant and in labor. She had traveled a mere 9 miles from her village, a journey that, without a car, took her almost 2 hours. She'd been turned away from the government hospital because for them, a 24-week baby is essentially a miscarriage. She was alone, tired, and scared when she arrived at the Holy Family looking for hope. At Holy Family, Jude was born at 520 grams, lighter than a bottle of water. Had he been born elsewhere, he'd have never made it out of the delivery room. At Holy Family, he was taken to the NICU where doctors and nurses specialized in caring for the smallest of lives took care of him. A ventilator helped him breathe. An incubator kept him warm while he grew. He received special nutrition by IV until his intestines were mature enough for milk, and then fed by tube until he could feed by mouth. He got x-rays and ultrasounds, blood tests, and antibiotics. Had he been born elsewhere, he'd have had few or none of these, and not a chance at survival. Today, thanks to the Holy Family, they are a healthy and happy family. Women like Hadil arrive at the Holy Family every day, carrying the hope that new life brings, and searching for hope in difficult circumstances. They come because other hospitals are unclean or unsafe. They come because they are turned away elsewhere because they cannot pay. Or they come because, like Hadil, they are told by other hospitals that they are unable to save babies so premature. For them, the Holy Family is a place of hope. It's that specific theme of hope that I want to focus on tonight. That story of Hadil and Jude took place before a global pandemic took us all by surprise. And as businesses closed and jobs were lost, family members took ill and were lost, hope became something people the world over, especially in places like Bethlehem, came to need more than ever. Through this past year and a half, the Holy Family has continued to provide hope for the people of Bethlehem in even more ways than before. Take, for example, baby Khalid, who my neonatologist colleagues at Holy Family recently told me about. Khalid was born at the Holy Family this past spring at 29 weeks to a mother who was ill with COVID. Her family chose the Holy Family because they knew that there would be their best hope, both for her health and for that of her premature baby. Because of her worsening condition, doctors at the Holy Family decided they needed to do an urgent C-section. Khalid was born and taken to the NICU, where, like baby Jude, he received respiratory support, warmth, antibiotics, and nutrition, while he grew to be able to breathe and eat on his own. In the meantime, his parents couldn't visit him because of the isolation protocols we had in place for babies born to COVID-positive mothers. But they had placed their hope and their trust in the skilled hands of our doctors and nurses, and in the reputation of the Holy Family in taking care of babies such as Khalid, the hope that brought them to the doors of our hospital in the first place. For his first 14 days, including his most critical, they watched him via FaceTime until they could finally hold that precious life they had hoped for in their arms. And this is them today. This is the work of the Holy Family, providing hope by saving vulnerable lives in a region where they might otherwise be given up for lost, caring for women who have nowhere else to turn, even more so now. The economic situation in Bethlehem has always been difficult, and this has only been made worse by the pandemic. A city that depended on pilgrims is now deserted, the economy devastated, most are unemployed, and many families are left without a livelihood. Financial instability has delayed marriages. As a result, the birth rate has dipped, but our NICU remains busy, with over 400 babies admitted since the pandemic started. The infants we've seen during the pandemic are born smaller and consequently sicker, not just because of their age, but because too often expectant mothers give their food to their other children before they themselves will eat. As a result, mortality has increased, even at our hospital, where it's now 2.6 per thousand, up almost a point from where it was before the pandemic, but still 2/3 lower than the national average in Palestine. Through it all, the Holy Family's state-of-the-art NICU continues to be the only place in the region where premature babies as young as 24 weeks are able to receive the intensive care they need to survive, care that is comparable to that given in the United States. At other hospitals in the region, mothers are simply turned away if they're in labor at extreme prematurity. Their baby is considered miscarriages. The hospital has also been hard at work meeting the increased needs of mothers as well. Some of the mothers who have come to us have been so sick with COVID, they've needed to be placed on ventilators, something that isn't normally done on a maternity ward. Until recently, our only ventilator outside of the operating rooms was from 2006. Thanks to generous donors like you, we now have 2 new ventilators available for use for when that need arises again. Another difficulty is that mothers are now even less likely to seek prenatal care. So our outreach vans are busier than ever, working to reach them where they are, even picking them up to come to the hospital when needed. I've mentioned how maternal nutrition has suffered during this pandemic. Thanks to donations, we've been able to supply mothers with free prenatal vitamins when they start their care with us. And despite all the hardships, our maternal mortality rate remains extremely low. Not a single mother has died at Holy Family since 2012. Even with all the hardship in Bethlehem, our hospital continues to provide hope by sharing with people in need in more ways than just strictly medical. Our nurses, noticing that mothers were taking fruit from their meal trays to feed their children at home, put the call out to the community to help. As a result, every day, people from the area bring baskets of apricots and persimmons to share with mothers. Our hospital's oxygen plant, despite being designed to run only 8 hours a day, now runs 24 hours a day, providing medical oxygen to all the other hospitals in Bethlehem at no cost to them, but at significant financial and manpower cost to us. Lastly, our hospital continues to provide the hope of a future for Christians in the Holy Land. Christians now are a small and dwindling presence in Bethlehem. Many have higher levels of education and opportunities to go abroad, like my colleagues there who trained in Europe and the US. The collapse of the local economy during this pandemic leaves little incentive for many to stay. Our hospital provides 191 direct or indirect jobs with pensions and paid time off, helping to provide a livelihood to Christian families, helping maintain that Christian presence in the place where Christ was born. Whenever I visit the NICU at Holy Family, its 18 beds are always full. Half of the babies usually on some sort of respiratory support. Most are not Christian, which brings to mind the words of late Cardinal Hickey, that we help the needy not because they are Catholic, but because we are Catholic. Regardless of their faith, all the mothers that deliver there are proud to go home with their babies wrapped in a blanket and wearing a knit hat, both emblazoned with the cross of our order. It is a point of pride because by showing they delivered at the Holy Family, they are saying they gave their baby the best. At Holy Family, where Christians and Muslims work side by side, taking care of patients of both faiths, interreligious harmony is nurtured. The hospital is a shining example of people of different faiths living in peace and mutual respect. It is also a beacon from which the Catholic ethos of respect for life is spread throughout the region. As of now, some 70 pediatricians and OBGYNs who have received their training at the Holy Family have carried that ethos to their communities throughout the country. Serving life, especially the most vulnerable, is at the core of our shared vocation as hospitalers and as Christians. Some of us have the privilege of living that vocation through our professions in medicine or nursing. But the body is many parts, and no matter our part, all of us are called to live that hospitaler vocation, spiritually, materially, and through our own talents and skills. That the body is many parts is true for the Church and the Order, and it is especially true for how we care for the smallest at the Holy Family. Care of the micropreemie involves not just doctors and nurses, but also nutritionists, pharmacists, social workers, and numerous other support staff working as one body. It requires high-tech equipment, expensive supplies, medications, clean floors, well-fed staff, working computers, adequate facilities, ambulances, and many more material needs. Without the donations that support all these many parts, the hands, the doctors and nurses would be unable to carry out their healing vocation. Without all the parts working together, these mothers would be left, like our Blessed Mother, knocking at doors, unable to welcome them. Most in the district are now unemployed. More than 100,000 women live in refugee camps, and there is no social welfare or health insurance to speak of. Many more women now cannot pay for care or even to travel. As a result, even more give birth in less than adequate conditions. The Holy Family continues to offer them a place to turn. With a greater number of charity cases and the need for more and more costlier supplies during this pandemic, financial help is needed more than ever for equipment, to keep paying salaries, and to ensure that the families that have no income, nearly all of them now, are taken care of through our Poor Case Fund. Your support will help the hospital continue its mission through this crisis and beyond, opening its doors to families like the original Holy Family 2,000 years ago, turned away everywhere else and in desperate search for hospitality. Your donations ensure that our 8-pointed cross continues to be a symbol of hope amidst hardship, and your support helps us save lives that might otherwise be lost. And lastly, your support helps promote peace among peoples in a place where the Prince of Peace was born. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much, Dr. Espiritu, for such a moving presentation. I know we will all continue to pray for the families and the medical staff at Holy Family Hospital. We have a minute or two for a few questions. If anyone has questions for Dr. Espiritu, you could put that right in the chat box. Okay. Well, without further ado, I will introduce you to Ambassador Michele Burke Bowe. Michele is the ambassador to Palestine for the Order of Malta. And Ambassador Bowe is the president of Holy Family Hospital of Bethlehem Foundation and has recently returned from a diplomatic trip and visit to the hospital. Ambassador?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Michael. That was just absolutely moving, and it felt like a little mini trip right back to Bethlehem. So as we all know, the pandemic struck in March of 2020 at a time when Bethlehem was bustling. There were 500 tour buses entering the city a day. The line to the grotto extended all the way out past Manger Square and into the market. The future was looking so promising. The Franciscans worked with the other Christian religions, and they got the hours extended at the Church of the Nativity. Things were really looking wonderful until COVID was discovered and everything closed, including the checkpoints. I recently returned to Bethlehem, and what I found was a dark, impoverished city. Dark because not much electricity. Closed markets and closed stores. Even the churches were closing at 1 or 2 in the afternoon to try to save staffing and electricity. Can you imagine young families without incomes for 17 months? Beggars are in the streets now, and that's really not part of the culture at all. But they have no choice. Who could deny a meal to a hungry child? What parent would do so? Middle-class families are selling their cars and selling their household goods for pennies on the dollar just to buy groceries. There's no stimulus checks because the government doesn't own the currency and they can't print more to offer stimulus checks. They can't turn to the church as much because the church's revenue depends heavily on the pilgrim hotels and the pilgrim restaurants. And the growing poverty means that those without salaries are very heavily relying on those with salaries. And the ones with salaries are the ones at Holy Family Hospital and Bethlehem University and some of the other Catholic institutions. People are gathering for birthdays with their families, gathering in song, but without presents and without cake. Most people say it's the hardest time there since 1948. And as a reminder, Bethlehem is the poorest governorate in Palestine after Gaza. And I think we forget that because it's so Christian. It almost sounds hopeless, but instead, I was greeted by great joy. Everyday conversations there continue to be sprinkled with thanks be to God. God is good, and if God wills it. Faith remains strong, and the people are the most resilient I've ever known. As I entered the hospital, I felt even greater joy than ever before. Not only joy of new life, but also the joy of young couples going home with newborn babies and their dignity intact. Thanks to you and other generous donors from around the country and indeed around the world, our Poor Case Fund is covering medical costs without saddling families with debt. We just heard of a man from Slovakia who had a birthday party, and his friends all made donations to the hospital. And they just saw something on social media and were moved by the story of Bethlehem. And by the way, who couldn't be moved? So our Poor Case Fund is covering those costs. Our staff continues to be so cheerful. I know you saw it in the pictures, the smiling eyes behind the masks. And they're working hard to hold up the morale of everyone. But they say it comes easily as they work in the birthplace of hope, delivering life and restoring health. Our hospital shines brighter than ever before, partially due to increased sanitation procedures, but mostly thanks to hope. Hope that stems from the dignity afforded by Holy Family Hospital, not only from greatly subsidized and free health care, but also from high quality employment that keeps Christians in the Holy Land and the training opportunities that gives everyone a chance to better their lives. Holy Family Hospital invests in the future, and you're investing right alongside us. Thank you. Thank you for joining us and hearing the cry of the poor from Bethlehem. turn it over to Gail. I think Gail has some nice remarks for us that she's prepared as well.
Thank you, Michelle. That was wonderful. And I know it took a long time for Michelle to get there and get back. And I think it's a breath of fresh air knowing that someone was able to get into the Holy Land. I think there was one person we forgot to introduce, and that's Ambassador Robert Shafer, right next to Ellen. So we just want to welcome you as well. Babies, as you know, do not wait for pandemics. Despite our dire situation, as Michelle explained, there is great hope and joy with the births that are given every day. So thank you to each and every one of you for joining us as we pivot and think of turning to Mass with Msgr Swiader. Please consider donating to our matching gift fund. And thank you to each and every one of our cabinet members who have been so generous with their time and treasure. Now allow me to introduce our celebrant for today's Mass, Msgr James Swiader. He is a longtime pastor and supporter of Holy Family Hospital. He is also a Malta chaplain of the American Association, and currently pastor of St. Joseph's Parish in Garden City, New York, which is Long Island. Msgr Swiader was making pilgrimages to the Holy Land to visit our hospital way before his time. He is truly an advocate of the mothers and the babies we serve. Over the last 5 years, Monsignor's parishioners have raised major financial gifts to our hospital. And as we were talking to him just before we went live today, this is the year of St. Joseph, and certainly tying that in to our hospital is a major gift. Our deep and generous thanks to you, Monsignor, and your parishioners, to the knights and dames who are active in your parish, to Donna and Tom O'Brien, and continue to support our hospital. Please join me and Msgr Swiader, our celebrant, for Mass now. Anna, back to you.
Thank you. The link to watch Mass is below in the Zoom chat. We have also sent the link to watch Mass to your email. If you are having any difficulties, please call Kristen at the number listed. I'm going to share the link again. The link is in the chat. It will take you to YouTube. It was also shared with you by email. Please let me know or call Kristen at the number listed if you are having any difficulties. If anyone is having any difficulty, you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask any questions. Otherwise, the Zoom will be closed out soon and everyone is encouraged to go to Mass.
Can you put the link up again, please? I know Kristen is standing by at 610-316-1057 if anyone is having any trouble getting onto Mass. But again, we thank you so much for coming. If Anna, you could put it up one more time, I think we'll do that and then close. Good night, everybody. Thank you.